All right. So where we left off in the first video is if we got this p-value at 0.21, what's the interpretation? Well, if the AISD average is 1070, so if the null is true, then there is a 0.21 or a 21% chance of observing the same result. Now, what does that mean? Well, 21%, I mean, that could happen just by chance, right? So we're going to say for our conclusion is because the p-value is greater than 0.05, we fail to reject the null hypothesis. And conclude that the AISD average is not different from the national average. So if you remember, we wanted to investigate whether the AISD students are performing close to the national average or is it different? Well, based on, and of course we got to have a random sample here, right? And they've got to give us the mean and standard deviation so we can figure out the p-value. But once we know what the p-value is, we can interpret it and then we can make it a conclusion. In this case, the p-value was too high. And because it was so high, it's greater than 0.5, we failed to reject the null hypothesis. So we don't know that there's a difference between AISD students on this test and the national average. Okay, types of errors. And this can be kind of confusing. So let's see. A type 1 error is if we reject the null when it's actually true. Because remember, we're making educated guesses. And so sometimes we're going to be wrong, right? Well, if we're wrong, if we reject and we're wrong, because it really shouldn't have been rejected, that's like a false positive. If we're talking about test results, right? For Corona, let's say. If KG went to trial from that first example, but she was actually normal. Type 2 error would be if we fail to reject, sorry. Let's see if I can fail to reject the null. But it's actually false. So it's like KG doesn't go to jail. Go to trial, sorry. But she's a murderer. All right. If you have questions over these things, about any of this, come and see me during tutoring. I can help clarify. All right. Adios.